has a story, a moment when the sea shows them something they can't explain. But few have encountered what waits in the depths of Tranquil Bay. On the surface, the bay lives up to its name. Calm waters, golden sands, and cliffs that shield it from harsh winds. But beneath the waves lies a sunken ship known as the Cassandra, a cargo vessel that vanished during a storm in 1968. Locals say the wreck is cursed. They whisper about a diver who disappeared while exploring it, and how his ghost now guards the wreck, waiting for anyone foolish enough to disturb his watery grave. Jackson Hayes didn't believe in ghost stories. An experienced diver and underwater photographer, Jackson had heard countless superstitions from locals during his travels. But he was always more interested in capturing the beauty of the ocean than entertaining tall tales. When he arrived at Tranquil Bay, the rumors didn't faze him. If anything, the idea of photographing a legendary wreck excited him. He rented a small boat and set out alone one early morning, his camera and gear packed tightly in a waterproof case. The water was unusually still, the horizon cloaked in mist. Jackson's boat floated over the wreck's coordinates, and with a final equipment check, he slipped into the water. The water was cold, darker than Jackson expected for such a shallow dive. As he descended, his flashlight revealed the twisted remains of the Cassandra. Its hull was split open, encrusted with coral and barnacles. Fish darted in and out of the wreck, and a strange stillness hung in the water. He swam closer, his camera clicking as he captured the eerie beauty of the ship. But then he saw it, a figure. At first, Jackson thought it was another diver, someone exploring the wreck just like him. The figure wore an old, tattered wetsuit, its helmet reflecting the beam of Jackson's flashlight. He waved, but didn't respond. Instead, it turned and swam deeper into the wreck. Curiosity got the better of him. Jackson followed, swimming through narrow passages and rusted corridors. The figure always stayed just ahead, moving with unnatural ease. It didn't seem to use fins or kick its legs. It simply glided, as if the water carried it. "Hey!" Jackson called through his regulator, his voice muffled. "Wait up!" The figure stopped. It turned slowly and Jackson's heart nearly stopped. The helmet was empty. There was no face, no head, just blackness staring back at him. And then the lights on his camera flickered. His flashlight dimmed and the water arrow grew icy cold. Jackson's instincts screamed at him to leave, but he couldn't move. The figure drifted closer, the darkness inside its helmet seeming to reach out toward him. Suddenly, the wreck groaned, a deep metallic sound that echoed through the water. The figure pointed toward the seabed, its hands skeletal and pale. Jackson looked down and saw something he hadn't noticed before, a rusted dive tank. It lay partially buried in the sand, alongside a rotting wetsuit and the remains of a diving mask. The name on the tank's side was faint but legible, E. Marshall. Jackson's blood ran cold. He'd read about Edward Marshall, a diver who'd gone missing. WW exploring the Cassandra search teams had never recovered his body vivi. As Jackson stared at the tank, the water around him churned violently. The figure began to disintegrate, its form breaking apart like smoke in the current. But before it vanished completely, a voice echoed in Jackson's mind, low and sorrowful. "Leave before it takes you too." And then, silence. Jackson didn't need another warning. Fighting his rising panic, he swam back toward the surface, his movements frantic but focused. The wreck seemed alive now, groaning and creaking as if it were protesting his escape. When he finally broke through the surface, gasping for air, the bay was shrouded in thick fog. The boat rocked gently where he'd left it, and the world was eerily quiet. Jackson hauled himself aboard, shaking as he removed his gear. He didn't look back at the water. He didn't want to see if something or someone was watching him. Back on shore, Jackson vowed never to return to Tranquil Bay, but he couldn't forget what he'd seen or heard. The images on his camera were sharp and clear, but the final photo sent chills down his spine. It showed the figure standing at the edge of the wreck, its empty helmet turned toward the camera. In its hand was a dive mask, the same one lying next to Edward Marshall's tank. Some mysteries are better left unexplored. If you ever find yourself diving near Tranquil Bay, remember the story of the ghost diver and think twice before following someone into the deep.